Godzilla is now in New York City.
Monster 01 and 02, commence the attack.
Hello, listeners, and welcome back to Stomp This Way. I know we're a little late on this episode, but I'm sorry. It happens, to the best of us. But we're going to catch up eventually.
We'll get there.
Yeah, but anyway. But today we are wrapping up the King Kong franchise. It's a big day here at the podcast. The final entry of what I would consider kind of the big three monster franchises, if you were to ask me.
For now.
King Kong, or Kong Skull Island. So, yeah, big day. Momentous day for the podcast here. And after this, we just go into a bunch of crap. Just kidding, kind of. Not really. But anyway, you want to hear about how this movie came about?
I guess.
All right, yeah. All right. Well, and as we kind of talked about...
before we really get started, excuse the background noise. Someone's mowing.
Yeah, someone's mowing. That's okay. We kind of talked about this when we talked about Peter Jackson's Kong. In 2013, Peter Jackson started kind of shopping around the idea of a sequel to his remake. And he kind of mentioned names like Adam Wingard and Guillermo del Toro as potential directors. And then Legendary got a hold of the rights to Kong, and they were like, we're not going to make a sequel, but we are going to make a movie. They announced a movie at the 2014 Comic-Con. They were originally going to stick with Universal as the distributor, but then they were like, we could set up a universe with Godzilla here. We could have a crossover movie. So they moved the distribution rights over to Warner Brothers to kind of start heading in that direction. And to continue heading in that direction, they got Max Bornstein, who was the primary writer on the 2014 Godzilla movie, to write the first draft of this film. Bornstein used, he didn't want to kind of recycle the old Kong formula, so instead he used Apocalypse Now as kind of the framework for this film. Very obvious. Very, very obvious. And then Vogt Roberts and his team, they used the original 33 Kong, Princess Mononoke, Pokemon, and Spirited Away as inspiration for the creature designs. J.K. Simmons and Michael Keaton were initially attached, but had to drop out due to scheduling conflicts, and they were replaced by Samuel L. Jackson and John C. Reilly. Samuel L. Jackson was paid $5 million for his role in this movie. They filmed this from October 19th of 2015 to March 18th of 2016. They filmed in Vietnam, Hawaii, and Australia for the on-set filming locations. And then Roberts also cited such films as Apocalypse Now, Platoon, The Host, and of course the anime Neon Genesis Evangelion as additional influences on this film.
It shows.
Yeah, he watches a lot of anime apparently. And of course the war movies. I mean, this reeks of a 70s Vietnam era war movie. But anyway, Dylan, how did this movie perform at the box office?
Well, let me tell you about it.
All right, go for it.
So this film was released March 10th of 2017.
Oh, God, so long ago.
Yeah.
4 years, right?
Yeah, right.
Wow.
I was a freshman in college.
I was a senior in high school, about to graduate in about 2 months.
I was a freshman then in high school.
God, these youngins over here.
Yeah, jeez.
Anyway, production budget of $185 million.
Pretty hefty.
A marketing budget of $136 million.
Pretty hefty.
I can't math off the top of my head right now. Aaron, what is that?
That is approximately, let's see,
something like
300 and something $million.
Something. Yeah, it's up there. Anyway, domestic opening of $61 million. a total domestic gross of $168 million, and a total worldwide gross of $567 million. So it did make money.
Back. Yeah, it did.
That's
for
why
sure.
we've got 2 more of these.
Yeah, right.
And this film was the number 1 movie at the domestic box office on its opening weekend. And to date, for now, it is the highest grossing MonsterVerse film.
That's
to be released
right.
by Legendary and Warner Brothers.
That's right. No one else has released a MonsterVerse film, but yes.
Universal was trying to set up that Universal MonsterVerse Dark Universe
whatever,
thing.
Yeah.
You saw that one over.
I think that was one and done kind of ordeal.
They did like 2 movies that were supposed to be technically a part of that or something.
They just did the one.
They did The Mummy. I thought they had done one more.
I think they just did The Mummy.
I think they only did The Mummy.
Yeah.
And they were like, ooh.
Yeah, it flopped hard.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, we're going to stop here and listen to the trailer. Then we'll come back, read off the cast and crew, read off the plot summary, and we'll talk about our thoughts on King Kong, the final entry in our Kong review series.
We're going to talk about King Kong, the King Kong?
Kong Skull Island. We'll also talk about King Kong himself, but yes, Kong Skull Island will be the film. Anyway, I'll see you in a bit.
An uncharted island. Let me list all the ways you're gonna die. Rain, heat, disease-carrying flies, and we haven't started on the things that want to eat you alive.
We'll double that.
Plus a bonus if we make it back. If?
In this dirty old part of the city where the sun refused to shine.
Is that a monkey?
God on the island.
We don't belong here.
But the devils live below us. I call them skull crawlers. Why? Because it sounds neat.
Okay.
Look, I just made that name up. I'm trying to scare you.
I'm fine calling them that. Are you cool with it?
Yeah, that seems like
I
that
like
seems
the
like
name.
All right, we're back.
Unfortunately.
Yes.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. What are you
Okay,
talking
this
about?
is a decent movie.
You love talking about these movies.
Do I?
Yeah.
Do I?
Yes, you do. This film
You
is...
can't Jedi mind trick me here.
Darn. This film is directed by John Vogt Roberts, written by Dan Gilroy.
I've heard that name before.
Dan Gilroy? It does sound familiar. Max Bornstein and Derek Connolly. Music by Henry Jackman.
Henry Jackman.
Yeah, the first time I saw it on Wikipedia, I thought it said Hugh Jackman. And starring Tom Hiddleston, Samuel L. Jackson, John Goodman, Brie Larson, and John C. Reilly.
Right on. That's where I've heard the name. He is the man responsible for writing the story for Real Steel, The Bourne Legacy, wrote and directed Nightcrawler. So that's where I've heard that name.
Nightcrawler, Skullcrawler, it's all connected.
It's all connected. Where's Jake Gyllenhaal? Anyway,
Yeah.
the plot summary. Are you
Go
ready?
for it. Yeah.
After Bill Randa, the head of Monarch, convinces the government to let him take an expedition to the recently discovered Skull Island, he enlists the help of decommissioned British Special Forces Captain James Conrad to help his team navigate the uncharted territory. They are accompanied by an army unit commanded by Colonel Packard, along with war photographer Mason Weaver, played by Brie Larson. It's a woman.
Yes.
The research expedition makes it to the island, but they are attacked by a giant gorilla. The survivors are split into two groups, one led by Conrad and one led by Packard. Conrad and Weaver come into contact with the island natives and find among them World War II pilot Marlowe, who has survived on the island for the last 30 years. Eventually, the two groups meet up, but Packard is intent on getting revenge on Kong no matter the cost. To add to their troubles, vicious skull crawlers have awakened and are now roaming the island, killing everything they come across. Packard and his men are able to neutralize Kong, but a giant skull crawler shows up before they can kill the giant ape. Packard is killed by the beast, and the rest of the survivors flee to the makeshift boat Marlowe has constructed. Right before the survivors are eaten by the skull crawler, Kong catches up to them and engages in a fight with his natural enemy. With some assistance from Conrad and the others, Kong is able to kill the lizard creature. The surviving members of the expedition float away from the island as Kong roars in victory. End credits roll.
Ooh, and then there's an end credits
Rolling
scene.
into a beautiful post-credit scene.
Setting up King of the Monsters, which you've already reviewed.
Long ago.
Long time ago.
Long ago.
That was our first movie, I believe, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, so long,
Long ago.
Comes
Oh,
full
long.
circle.
It all comes full circle, boys.
Yeah.
Well,
We've now reviewed all these after we're done with this.
I know, right?
For now.
For
Well, this
now.
this film actually starts out in World War II, and
Where's Godzilla?
Where is Godzilla? We're in the skies, and there's an airplane being shot down, and so there's an American pilot and a Japanese pilot, and they crash land on a mysterious beach, and they get into a fight, but their fight is interrupted by a giant gorilla.
Sure is.
Cut to about 30 years later.
It's 1973.
1973, we see Bill Randall rolling up in Washington. Of course, he has the famous, or the classic line, "You mark my words, you'll never see a crazier time in Washington." Ha ha. And he's going to go visit a senator to get permission to piggyback on some other expedition to Skull Island because he wants to find a monster or something. Do United States senators have permission to grant these kind of mission requests?
I mean, I guess.
I
mean, my thought process is a monarch probably operates under some sort of government control.
Yeah, it's a government agency. Secret government agency.
So I imagine they probably would have to get some sort of...
I mean, I know they'd have to get permission. Can a single lone
A
senator...
single lone senator be like, "Yo, senator,
Yeah.
can we do this?" Sure.
Sure, go for it.
Me alone makes that decision.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Whatever. It gets them to the island is the point.
Yes.
But first of all, we have to introduce some other characters. So John
We also have
Goodman
to establish that the war in Vietnam has...
come to an end that day.
It's coming to an end, yeah.
Yeah, that's the day
They're
that
gonna start-
Nixon announced the
end of their
withdrawal
involvement
of
in
their troops.
Vietnam, yeah.
Yeah, anyway, so John Goodman, he's playing Bill Randall. I don't know if I said that earlier.
He did
but
not. And he's accompanied by his scientist friend, played by Corey Hawkins,
That's right. And
who's not listed in the cast here.
I just got the important ones.
Sorry.
Everybody's important, of course. But anyway, so, we had to go and kind of meet the rest of the crew. So I think we have a scene with Samuel Jackson in his army outfit, kind of setting up that they're about to go home.
They're about to go home.
But
And then he gets a phone call saying, "Hey, you want to help take this group of scientists to this mysterious island or whatever?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "Well, shoot, heck yeah."
Yeah, and right before that, there is some character development, like Chapman walks into his office and, Chapman, he asks Chapman if he's got anything waiting for him back home, and Chapman's got like a job set up and a family, and Samuel, you can just kind of tell by the way he's acting, doesn't really have anything back home.
Yeah, it kind of feels like to me when they first set up Samuel L's character that he's just kind of like, he's been here a while.
Yeah.
And this is what he knows, this is what he does, and he doesn't want to go home.
He doesn't want to go home.
Which, when you really think about it, I mean, a lot of soldiers in Vietnam did feel like that. They didn't feel like they could come home. They didn't feel like they were going to be welcome there because they were fighting in
they weren't welcome.
in an unpopular war.
There were a bunch of hippies that would meet him at the tarmac and spit at him. Goddamn hippies.
We have one in this movie.
We do have a hippie,
Yeah.
played by everyone's favorite actress, Brie Larson. I'm sorry, I'm just not a fan of Brie Larson. She had one decent movie, and in my opinion, the Jacob Tremblay acted circles around her in that movie. But
You
whatever.
can't just trash on Brie Larson like that.
God, and I know it's popular to hate on Brie Larson, and I don't do it just to be part of the in crowd, but I just can't like. I don't know. There's just something about her that every time she's on screen, I just like, oh God, this chick. But anyway, so she's in it. Yep, she's a she's an anti-war photographer. You know, I do like Samuel L's line in this movie. I don't know if it's borrowed from another movie where she's like, "You're gonna blame the people without guns for losing the war," and he's like, "Camera's much more dangerous than a gun," or whatever he says. And we didn't lose the war; we abandoned it. Well, that was a pretty good line the whole way across. But anyway, love Samuel L.
Samuel L. is a fantastic
I
actor.
love Samuel L.
You can never talk trash on Samuel
Even
L.
trash movies that he's in, love him in them. Also, one of the things I'll just go ahead and say that I like about this movie is the supporting cast is amazing.
Who is the main character in this movie?
Tom Hiddleston.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I was to say that the worst part of this movie is that it's two leads I don't give two craps about this entire movie, which would be Tom Hiddleston and Brie Larson.
You don't care about him?
I don't,
don't
at
care?
all. That, like, you know, and I like Tom Hiddleston fine enough.
Tom Hiddleston's character to me throughout this movie doesn't really have a huge arc.
No, they give much more backstory to the side characters than they do the two main characters. Like, we know he is ex-British Special Forces and she's a war photographer. I mean, that's all we know about
That's
them.
about all we know, and that's about the extent of them.
Their character development.
You know more about the old pilot.
Yeah, but no, the supporting cast in this movie is great, and I think the movie does a good job.
Accompanied by a lot of people. I mean, like we said, we got Samuel L.
Yeah.
John C. Reilly's in
He'll come up later, yeah. John Goodman. Love him. And then even the ones whose names I don't really know. The guy playing Chapman, I think, is good. The guy, you know, the two friends that are always the bickering back and forth where he's like, you know, how much do you love your mama? And the other guy, those two. I really like them in this movie. Just, you know, I mean, the cast...
Corey Hawkins' character and the young scientist, she's okay.
They're not really that important or not that great, but yeah, a lot of the supporting characters I really like in this movie. The other young guy, you know, that's supposed to be like the young kind of naive one. I really like his character.
I think that's his name's Thomas Mann in real life.
Oh, okay.
If I'm not mistaken.
Well, I like him. So yeah, you know, I really like the supporting cast in this movie. Yeah. I think that's really the strongest point in this movie, obviously. But anyway, so yeah, John Goodman he recruits Tom Hiddleston to help them, you know, track across this uncharted forest or whatever. And yeah, somewhere Brie Larson ends up on the expedition for some reason. And anyway, they're all getting on this boat. There's a lot of references, you know, this whole scene of them getting on this giant barge and then having the scene in the, like, with the little projectors, very reminiscent of the 70s Kong movie.
Gotta get the lowdown, the briefing.
Yeah, the briefing in the 70s Kong movie. This time...
Where's Jeff Bridges busting in the door to tell him, hey, that's not true.
Yeah. Basically the same character as Brie Larson, right? They're both hippies, and they like to take pictures.
Sure.
But this time, instead of a fog bank, it's a perpetual storm system.
That'll come back.
But yeah, and then, you know, this movie, it's about 2 hours long, but the first hour moves pretty fast. It's less than 30 minutes when we're getting to the island. You know, they have...
Yeah, I think we break through the storm at about the 26, 27 minute mark, somewhere around there.
Yeah, and Kong starts throwing trees at people at around 29 minutes. So less than 30 minutes, all this is happening, which I think is good. You know, they do just enough to set up the characters early on and introduce everybody. I mean, it's a big cast, but I think appropriately so.
It's like Marvel light.
And, you know... I mean, obviously, this movie does a lot of the 70s era Vietnam War movie tropes, but I'm willing to give this movie those because, one, you know, I like Vietnam War movies like that. I mean, obviously, this is Apocalypse Now with a giant gorilla, basically. But, you know, I like Apocalypse Now. I like Platoon, you know, movies like that. So I'll give this movie that. And I like the fact that they're kind of merging that with a giant monster movie. It's kind of a neat trick. You know, we've got the 70s era songs. Creedence is in here. And, you know, there's some Black Sabbath in here and some other people.
You got, at one point when they first walk into this... it's what it is. It's a Saigon whorehouse.
Yeah.
When they're going to meet up with Tom Hiddleston's character, they're literally in Saigon.
It's a PG-13 Saigon whorehouse.
Yeah. They walk in and Jefferson Airplane's White Rabbit's playing in the background. I'm like, okay. Get trippy and weird here.
Yeah. They control themselves, restrain themselves a bit. There's no fortunate son. There is a bad moon rising.
They did not pick that that specific
I think
CCR
it's
song.
too much, a little too much.
It's
on
been
the
overplayed
nose.
a little in
Just
in
a
the
little.
war movies.
Yeah.
Okay,
We got Bad Moon Rising instead.
it's good
but-
enough.
Good enough.
Close enough. But yeah, so I'm enjoying the movie a lot up to this point.
Yeah.
I mean, it's obvious from very early on, especially when we get into the island. It's a beautifully filmed movie.
Definitely.
John Vogt Roberts has a great eye for this thing. A lot of influence from
I think
Apocalypse
that
Now,
I think
but-
that these first first shots before
Yeah.
Kong attacks, this 3-minute time span between them breaking through this line of storms and Kong attacking has some really pretty shots. Obviously, a lot of them are references to, especially to Apocalypse
the
Now.
rising sun scene,
Yeah,
setting
the
sun, whatever it
helicopters,
is. Flying into it just with a giant gorilla silhouette.
It's great.
Yeah, I think that's great.
Those
There's
are very pretty shots.
throughout this film, there's a lot of great, on location shots, where they filmed, in Vietnam and in Australia and Hawaii. So, kudos to John Vogt Roberts. He made a beautiful movie, aside from a couple of iffy CGI shots
This
in
is
there
true.
we'll talk about. But so yeah, like I said, all this within the first 30 minutes or so. The helicopters go down. They kind of split into two different groups. Kind of one led by Colonel Packard, one led by what was his name?
Conrad.
Yeah, Tom Hiddleston, whatever his name is.
Conrad.
And, so then we kind of go on, and then, again, to kind of keep the pace moving, about 45 minutes into the movie, they introduced John C. Reilly. We had the scene with him as, a younger version of him at the very beginning of the movie, but now he's John C. Reilly.
And I think this middle portion, though, it is structured a little different. It's essentially, your classic Kong, part of the Kong movie where we venture through the jungle and run into different monsters along the way.
Yeah, we see a giant ox-looking thing. We see a giant
we see a giant bamboo spider thing.
I really like that scene. I mean, that is a creepy looking spider, and I hate spiders, and I love the bamboo legs. Violent for a PG-13, but they push the boundaries with this rating.
This man, at one point, this one guy is literally speared all the way through his body with one of the spider's legs, and he's just sitting there with a bamboo shoot in his mouth.
It's a pretty cool scene. I like it. There's a blatant reference to King Kong versus Godzilla, where King Kong fights a giant
squid.
It's a squid in this version, it's an octopus.
And then he eats it.
And then he eats it. Eats it like
noodles. He
noodles.
slurps it up.
Yeah,
There's also that giant stick bug thing.
The giant stick
bug. A little bit
bug.
later, but there's a giant stick bug, of course, and then eventually...
And then the skull crawlers will show up.
Yeah, the skull crawlers, they show up about what? It's
something like the 50-ish minute mark.
Yeah, but like I said, about 45 minutes in, John C. Reilly shows up, and I think he's, John C. Reilly, he can be hit and miss with me, but I think he works really well in this movie. I think he's really good comedic relief. They set the tone right for this movie.
Yeah, he's... You get the sense, I mean, because this is basically the person John C. Reilly is in about every movie.
Yeah.
But it works for this movie. You can buy it because he's a World War II pilot.
Yeah.
He's stuck in the 40s.
Yeah.
And he's been stuck on this island for 30 years, so he might be a little cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
Yeah, he is a little cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. But no, I like him in this movie. He provides some exposition about the history of Kong and skull crawlers and blah, blah, blah.
And how King Kong is, he's growing. He's not fully grown
He's
yet.
still growing, which will explain away why he's 3 times his size in 30 years later when he's fighting Godzilla, I guess, but whatever.
Yeah.
So, all this is happening, and, over on the other side, I guess, Samuel is, demanding answers from John Goodman, and John Goodman goes into this monologue about how he was the only survivor on a ship that got attacked by a monster, and how he's been on a search for...
Did they say what monster?
They don't.
It's got big claw marks, kind of like Godzilla.
I kind of thought it would be Godzilla, yeah. I mean, if I was guessing, but, whatever. And, I really like John Goodman in this movie, too. He's got some great monologues. I always love John Goodman. And I think where this movie excels, where other MonsterVerse movies fail, I never really cared for the human characters in these MonsterVerse movies, aside from, like I said, Bryan Cranston in the first half of that first Godzilla movie. But aside from that, haven't cared about any of these human characters, really. Maybe Ken Watanabe on occasion, but this one does a really good job, like I said, with this supporting cast, and largely it's because they just let Samuel and John Goodman and John C. Reilly just be themselves, be what they're good at, know. I mean, like I said, I think they do pretty good jobs. I like, Samuel's story arc is kind of taken from Marlon Brando, and
he's definitely very Marlon Brando-esque. But this crazy military commander that is just going off the rails and leading a group of soldiers that aren't really sure why they're here.
I think
they're going for it.
I think Samuel's good at it. I like his kind of, he can't stand the fact that they lost the war and he's not going to lose this war. And I think he plays it really well. And, like I said, John Goodman and John C. Reilly doing their part. If only Brie Larson,
Which
Tom
isn't
Hiddleston.
Samuel L. in Apocalypse Now? Samuel L. I think is as a minor
he?
role in sorry, it's Lawrence Fishburne.
Yeah, I just wish Tom Hiddleston and Brie Larson's characters were better. And I did read where Dan Gilroy said that he had written a lot more backstory to their characters that was just kind of cut from the film. They didn't think they had time for it, which I would think you would cut. And I'm kind of glad they didn't, but I think you would cut the side story or side character backstories instead of your main characters. But what do I know about making movies? But anyway. So yeah, I will say once we kind of get into the second hour of this movie, it kind of drags in parts. I think
Spend a lot of time walking in the jungle.
Yeah, I think you could probably shave about 15 minutes off the second half. They're trying to get back up north. They kind of meet back up, but Samuel L. is determined. Even though he says they're looking for Chapman, and then we have this kind of over the top scene in this like methane gas field thing where they like.
Oh, it's fantastic. What are you talking about?
Yeah, where they first really have their first major encounter with a skull crawler, and
they take it out, and Brie Larson ends up blowing it up with a lighter.
Yeah, this is where John Goodman gets killed. And
John Goodman gets killed. At one point, some sort of toxic gas grenades end up in a fire and blow up, and so Tom Hiddleston puts on a gas mask and grabs the samurai sword from John C. Reilly and goes to town on these weird little bird creature things and slow-mo flying around.
Very bright neon color, like neon
green
background. And blue and purple's going on.
You're like,
what's happening?
He's like doing stuff. It looks straight out of an anime.
Oh yeah, it does. It is straight out of an anime. Not the only scene straight out of an anime in this movie, but it's definitely this one. But yeah, they kill the skull crawler. But at that point, I guess the skull crawler had vomited up Chapman's remains, and Thomas Hiddleston had found his dog tags or whatever. But anyway, Samuel is going to continue on because his real mission, he wants to kill Kong. And, but they kind of split up. And, Brie Larson at one point has a touching moment with King Kong where she, does the classic touch his nose thing. Anyway, Tom Hiddleston and Brie Larson decide they're going to go save Kong from Samuel. And Samuel and the soldiers kind of set a trap for him and try to burn him up. And
with napalm.
With napalm.
Yeah.
Love the smell of napalm in the morning.
You know it.
And he passes out, but then the big skull crawler wakes up and attacks.
And John C. Reilly says it. That's the big one.
And Samuel gets killed, and
he gets crushed by Kong.
Yeah,
he does get crushed by Kong.
Kong just
smacks him,
smashes him with a fist.
And then so the rest of the characters are running from the skull crawler, and
sure are. They end up back at the boat.
This is about what we got, about 15-20 minutes of the movie left.
Yeah, roughly. When the Skullcrawler first shows up, something about 25. It was like an hour 38 by the time the credits start rolling. It's something like 25 minutes left in the movie, and then the final battle truly kicks off. I'd say with about around 15ish minutes left when Kong finally wakes back up and comes in and attacks him.
Smacks on the head with a rock.
We get some classic Kong moves.
Tries
to break his jaw, smacks his head into the rocks.
Yeah.
The
Skullcrawler kind of throws Kong into an old boat, and he gets wrapped up in the anchor chain.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
And then another scene straight out. The humans are kind of distracting the Skullcrawler, but another scene.
Brie Larson's up on top of this hill taking pictures and shooting off.
She's a
flares.
She's a dead shot. She shoots a flare.
Yeah, she shoots a flare straight into the side of the Skullcrawler, and then Tom Hiddleston takes off running, and meanwhile Kong's getting up and. He's got his chains wrapped around and breaks some chains off of him, and then he rips the propeller off of the back of this boat, and he
starts swinging it around, and it's amazing. But eventually, Brie Larson, I don't know, she falls into the water, he saves her, but then the Skullcrawler tries to eat his hand, but he rips out its guts.
He fists that sucker's throat.
Without crushing Brie Larson.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Amazing.
Straight fisted it.
And family-friendly podcast. And anyway, kills the Skullcrawler.
Lets Brie Larson down. And then Tom Hiddleston picks up Brie Larson, and they watch Kong walk off into the sunset.
Sunset. I think it's
sunrise. Probably more sunrise.
Well, they kind of float off into the sunrise.
Yeah, then they float off into the sunrise, and Kong, he walks into frame and roars his little heart out and pounds on his his little Kong chest and cut to and then we zoom through his eye.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, we do.
There's people, and then we credits roll, and then roll eventually into an end credits.
We get a brief right as the credits are starting to roll. We get a brief kind of like montage thing of John C. Reilly showing back up in America, and he shows up at the door of his. It's mentioned earlier in the movie. He's got a wife, and his wife was having a kid about the time that he was leaving the war, or right about the time that he was leaving to go to war, and so he shows back up. Somehow, 30 years later, this lady has never decided to marry.
Well, we don't know that. I mean, there could be a husband off screen somewhere.
Maybe. He seems pretty comfortable just sitting in the home, eating a hot dog and drinking his beer that he said he wanted earlier in the movie.
Yeah.
Watching the Cubs play.
Yeah, you're right. I don't know.
So, yeah.
But, yeah.
He meets his son. His son's like looking at him like, what the heck is going on?
Yeah.
He's like, who is this guy?
Yeah.
And we roll into the end credit scene.
Yeah, end credit scene where it's just basically the guys from Monarch telling Tom and Bree that they're...
He's not the only one.
He's not the only one. And then we see cave paintings of Godzilla, Rodan, Mothra, and Ghidorah, and Godzilla and King Ghidorah fighting. And then at the very end, Godzilla's roar.
2 years later, it would come out.
Yeah. Right.
And we've talked about that.
We have talked about that one.
The first one we talked about.
It was the good old glory days.
Was it?
Was it? But anyway, yeah, that's the end of this movie. I mean, how many times have you seen this?
All the way through?
Yeah.
Maybe 3.
Yeah, I've probably seen it 4 or 5. I saw it in theaters 2 or 3 times.
I saw it in theaters once.
Yeah.
I've seen it several times.
Yeah, well.
3 or 4.
But no, I enjoy this movie. I do kind of think it's one of those movies, though, that there's a backstory that would have probably made a more interesting movie. Honestly, I think a more interesting movie could have been John C. Reilly and the Japanese pilot, like, having to learn to be friends on this island and trying to get off this island together.
I think that would have been much more of a comedy.
It would have been a comedy, but it could have also been more heartfelt, two people on opposite sides of the greatest war ever fought, having to come together. But no, the movie as it is, I really enjoy it. I think I like the kind of the 70s Vietnam era feel of it. I think it's beautifully shot, beautifully filmed.
It does feel a lot like, your typical war movie that's set during the Vietnam War.
But with the
just
giant
with
monster.
Giant monsters.
Giant monsters, yeah. And I think, like I said, I love the supporting cast in this movie. I think in terms of characters and human
this
drama.
This easily has the best characters in any of the monsters
by
movie.
far. No contest. Even if the two lead, what's amazing is it has that title with the two leads not being very intriguing.
Yeah.
But that's just on the strength of its supporting cast.
I think it's got the best cast in general.
Yeah.
Even if you take away the little character moments and character development for some of your side characters, it has easily the best cast of any of these movies.
Oh yeah,
as a whole it does for sure. Although the other movies don't have bad cast, I just don't think they were utilized well. But
especially not the talent that they put on screen.
Yeah, for sure. But no, I enjoyed it. I mean, like I said, it kind of drags in that second hour. I think they probably could shave about 15 minutes off of it. But no, I think for the
it's one of the prettiest too.
Yeah, for sure, one of the prettiest.
I'll give all these movies that. I mean, they're all pretty to look at.
They all would make beautiful motion posters.
The question is, we can talk about it in a little bit. Is it better than Godzilla vs. Kong?
Yeah, we'll talk about at the end, I think, how I would rank the MonsterVerse movies officially. But yeah, for now, let's kind of delve into creature design. Let's start with the man himself, King Kong.
The King of Kong.
Yeah. I like Kong's design. He's a more...
he looks like the Kong that we've talked about, obviously, from Godzilla vs. Kong.
Yeah.
But he's a teenager. He's a youngin'.
He's
young
younger.
boy.
He's only... I think he's supposed to only be about 100 feet tall in this.
Yeah.
He's upright. He stands straight upright, just like the original Kong, for the most part. Unlike Peter Jackson's, that was, more of a quadruped. But, yeah, I like the look of Kong in this.
He looks like a giant ape.
Looks like a giant gorilla that stands upright.
And toward the end of the film, obviously, he starts having big scratches and stuff on his chest.
I think he has a scar across maybe his eye or something.
Yeah. He doesn't have his old man goatee yet.
Yeah.
Nope.
But Kong's ripped, too.
Kong's ripped. He's a muscular ape. But let's see. Who else we got? The skull crawlers. What do you think about the skull crawlers? They're a pretty neat looking thing. They got like 2 legs and a long tail, and they got skulls on their faces or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're pretty creepy.
I like them.
Things.
They're creepy looking.
nasty looking teeth, and they got like 3 tongues inside their mouth.
Yeah.
We
There's
have
a giant bamboo spider.
yeah,
It's a giant spider with bamboo legs.
Yeah,
and it's got little claws on him.
he does. And it's got like instead of like webbing, it's got like these goopy looking tentacle things
That
that
come down?
and grab people.
Animate what?
What? Yeah, it looks creepy. I hate spiders, and
That's one of the most effective scenes I think in this movie.
yeah.
They're literally like standing in a field of bamboo, and then all of a sudden stuff starts moving. They're like, "Oh my god!"
They're like, "Oh, no."
And they look up, and it's like, "Oh god!"
Yeah, yeah. A reference to Kumunga, I'm sure.
Possibly.
But we had the giant ox. Looks like a giant ox.
Yes.
It's a tortilla garden, but an ox.
An ox, yeah.
Yeah.
We have the walking stick, or the giant,
Stick bug, giant stick bug.
thing.
Except it's a tree bug.
It's a tree bug.
It's a tree bug.
Tree bug. A tree log bug.
We have the bat things that rip the one guy apart. They
Yeah.
look like swordfish, like with their face.
But with wings.
But with wings, yeah.
Were there other creatures?
There were...
There's an octopus.
There's
They
the
don't really see him.
octopus.
It's a giant squid.
thing. Yeah. I think that's about
That's
it.
about it.
I think that's about it. So lots of creatures, just like any good Skull Island movie. There's some white-tailed deer on this island too.
Yeah.
I will say I think they did a good job making Kong feel personable and give him emotions too. He's got emotions.
Yeah, I mean he doesn't interact with humans as much as other movies we've seen. But yeah, he's his face conveys emotion a lot.
I think they did some motion capture work for him too.
Probably. Yeah.
I think I did see where the guy who plays, I think it's the guy who plays the guy that Samuel is looking for. What the heck is his name? Chapman. Yeah, I think he's the guy who did the motion capture work for Kong.
Oh really? That's cool.
I think so.
Yeah. So there you go.
There you go.
But effects. Pretty good for the most part. I mean, there's
I think
a couple
some spotty CGI here or there, but for the
King
most part,
Kong looks really good.
Kong looks really good. That's
Yeah.
definitely where they spent their money, was on Kong, and especially the Kong and the skull crawlers.
Yeah, explosions look good.
There's a couple scenes, a couple shots. I think one of the worst, in my opinion, that stood out to me was during the sequence where all the helicopters are crashing. There's a guy like being tossed around in a helicopter that's crashing with fire around him. And it's a little rough. He looks like a cartoon character almost.
Yeah, sometimes the helicopters in the storm kind of look a little cartoonish, but no, as a whole, I think
for the most part, I think it looks pretty good.
Yeah,
Effects are really good.
And then I guess we have the score.
The score.
I like the score. They try to make it kind of like a 70-ish war movie score.
Mm-hmm.
Both the original music, obviously, and the
soundtrack.
soundtrack. I think it works well together.
Definitely.
And I think it's effective and matches the mood of the scenes and
Absolutely.
moves it along. But
Works really well.
Works
get
good.
ready for final thoughts.
I guess so.
Andrew, would you like to start?
Well,
I do not know.
Actually, I don't. What do you think?
well, I think this is an alright movie, all in all. The acting is pretty good. Maybe not on the main character's part, but... nah, the main characters act pretty well. Just... the characters are not well fleshed out.
Put out.
They put out. Someone's putting out.
Sorry.
What?
Oh, goodness. Like I said, the side characters are way more fleshed out than the other ones, have way more backstory.
Yeah.
But it happens.
Yeah.
It works for the movie, though. The characters are fine. I like them. They're probably some of the best MonsterVerse characters we have.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy them, and, the CGI in this is iffy at times. But most of it is alright. King Kong is probably the best CGI of all the monsters. Except skull crawlers are alright. And, score is pretty good. There's a lot of classic war movie songs that you would hear in 70 war movies. And I think I'm gonna give this movie a B+.
A B+. Dylan, what do you think?
I think this is actually a pretty good movie. I like all the references, especially definitely the visual references, and kind of and very much so the main story that's going on with Samuel L. Jackson, heavily being inspired by Apocalypse Now. Lots of visuals that are from war movies that are based in the Vietnam War era. I like all those aspects a lot. I think where this movie really shines and really stands out and compared to other MonsterVerse movies is easily its characters. Granted, like we've already talked about, I think that our two leads are probably the least interesting characters in the entire movie, which is kind of funny. But you got a great cast of supporting characters, especially I think Samuel L. and John C. Reilly and even John Goodman are all really great side characters, and I like the little aspects and character beats that we've given each of them, and even like what Chapman his like he's got a
Dear
family.
Billy letters, yeah.
He's got his family back home and stuff like that.
That's a running joke. Dear Billy.
Dear Billy. But all the characters work really well. I think that the action in this movie is pretty well done, pretty well staged, minus some sketchy CGI here or there. But for the most part, I think the effects are done really well. Especially Kong. I like the way Kong looks in this movie. Mm-hmm. I like the emotions that he has at times. Look really good. You know, it's not a bad movie. It's actually pretty decent. The score is really good. It works when it needs to, and the more intense sequences. It's got, you know, your good classic 70s Vietnam War era songs playing in the background. You got your CCR and Black Sabbath going. I mean, it's a good time. Performances are all really good, and this movie is really, really, really pretty to look at. It's one of the prettiest in the MonsterVerse, if not the prettiest in the MonsterVerse. I think I'm with Andrew. I give it it does drag at times, and especially in that second half, like you said. I think we could have cut some stuff out, some of the walking through the jungle out. I think I'm with Andrew. I think I could give it a B+.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. I think it's going to be B+ across the board. Like you talked about, I think, again, by far the best characters in the MonsterVerse as a whole. Best cast. Best utilization, at least, of the cast in any of the films that we've watched. Of note, probably the least racist portrayal of natives in any of these Kong films that we've watched. But no, it looks beautiful. Effects are really good for the most part. Action scenes are pretty exciting across the board. I think John C. Reilly, John Goodman, Samuel L., like I said, are all really great in their respective roles. I enjoy it quite a bit. I think a B+ is a very apt grade for it. And, it does have its issues, like I've said. Shave about 15 minutes off of it, and it's probably in the A's, in the A range. But no, as a whole, I really enjoy this movie, and it's definitely there. I'll go ahead and say
let's rank the MonsterVerse, and then let's wrap up our thoughts on the Kong franchise as a whole.
Yeah, so if I was ranking the MonsterVerse, personally, I think I gave this and Godzilla vs. Kong both B+. But if I were to rank them, I think I would edge Kong Skull Island to the top, followed by Godzilla vs. Kong, followed by Godzilla 2014, followed by Godzilla King of the Monsters. That's it, right? Yeah. What about you, Andrew?
What do you think, Andrew?
Let's see. Well, I think Kong would probably be on top.
Kong Skull Island?
It's Kong Skull Island.
Kong's always on top.
Ooh.
Sorry.
And then, let me see. What other movies are there? Oh, yeah.
There's Godzilla vs. Kong.
There's 2014, guys. I think I would put 20. Well, I think I would put Godzilla vs. Kong second, and thank you.
I'll think faster.
I thank you.
You only got two movies to choose from. It's Godzilla or Godzilla King of the Monsters, kid.
I think I'll put Godzilla King of the Monsters 2014.
Okay, switch up the last two.
Personally, I know for a fact, I'm almost positive I gave Godzilla vs. Kong a higher grade than this movie.
Did you?
I think I did. That was the first time I watched it, though.
Yeah.
I have seen it 2 or 3 times since.
Yeah.
Retroactively, I would probably say it's not as good as this.
Yeah.
I think that movie has some better action than this movie.
It's faster paced.
Much faster paced. But this movie really shines with its characters and how beautiful it is to look at. Granted, that movie is really pretty.
Yeah.
Lots of neons, especially at the end. But this movie, I would probably say, even though I technically gave this a lower grade than on our review of GVK, I think my ranking would be the same as yours. I'd go Skull Island, GVK, 2014 Godzilla, and then King of the Monsters.
Yeah.
I think that, and then King of the Monsters and Godzilla there's a pretty decent separation there.
Yeah. Well, it pains me to say that because obviously I am a Godzilla fan first, and the fact that I'm going to put the solo Kong movie on at the top of the rankings. I mean, I would rather not have to do that, but they've left me no choice, Dylan.
They've left you no choice.
But no, you want to
wrapping up thoughts on the franchise as a whole. I say, what's the high point and the low point for you?
Well, I still think the high point is the original.
Easily the original.
It's just a classic film. I mean, in all senses of the word. I mean, it holds up. I think really for a movie
the monster movie.
For a movie made nearly 90 years ago. I mean, it holds up really well, and yeah, it really with that, like I said in that review, if it wasn't for that 33 Kong film,
we probably wouldn't be sitting here today.
Yeah, most of these other monster film movies that we've talked about would not exist, Godzilla included. So yeah, I think not only do we owe a lot to that original Kong movie, but it's a great film to just sit down and watch.
Definitely, it's really good.
Yeah,
but the low point.
The low point.
Andrew, what do you think the low point is?
I don't know. What did you think?
What would I think the low point is in the King Kong
in the Kong franchise?
Yeah.
What do you think the low point is?
That's a hard.
I think I got a pretty definitive answer.
I think I do too. Yeah.
I think it's a pretty easy shot.
I think it is too. I don't think you have to think about it too hard.
Well, trying to think of all the Kong movies there are.
We got Kong. We got King Kong. We got Son of Kong. We got King Kong Escapes. We got King Kong. We got King Kong Lives. We got King Kong. And we got Kong Skull Island.
A lot of King Kong.
You can also include King Kong vs. Godzilla and Godzilla vs. Kong if you want.
Yeah,
if you want to.
There's a lot of King Kong there.
Yeah.
But the lowest point in this franchise. Oof, I think.
What are we humming? I think to me it's a pretty easy answer.
I think it's pretty clear.
King Kong Lives.
Yeah.
Yep.
King Kong
That's
Lives.
easily the worst that we
That's
watched.
the worst one that we watched.
I think it's followed very closely to me
Yeah.
by King Kong Escapes.
Oh, you son of a. You get,
If I were ranking the Kong franchise, because I know you're going to, and it'll be listed. I definitely would put the original first.
Yeah.
Probably followed pretty closely by Peter Jackson's. I think I would then say this one.
Yeah.
And then it gets tougher.
The two.
And then it gets
Then there's
tougher.
a drop off.
The two I was thinking.
I would probably say, depending on the day, Son of Kong. Over the 76 Kong.
Okay.
And then Escapes and Lives.
Really? Yeah.
That's excluding GVK and Godzilla vs. Kong.
I was really debating.
King Kong vs. Godzilla. What do you think?
I was really debating between Escapes and Lives on the worst
I think
one.
Escapes. I'd rather watch Escapes any day than watch King Kong Lives again.
I can't believe you are. I can't believe you are saying Escapes is worse than Son of Kong.
It's just not for me.
It's just not for you.
Mechanic? What is Mechanic Kong?
He's the greatest thing ever constructed.
I like Escapes, but as
it's
a
got
whole,
moments. I'll give you. It's got moments.
Yeah.
But as a whole, it's iffy.
I don't know. I like the characters in Son of
Yeah.
Kong. I like having Carl Denham back. It's funny. He's a good character, and I like how Robert Armstrong plays him.
In fact, it's only like 67 minutes long or something.
Super short.
It's
quick
super
and painless.
short.
Yeah, I think I would have to disagree. I mean, I'll post my full Kong rankings. If I was just going to do a quick one off the top of my head, I'd probably say I would probably have the same top three as you. The original, I would say the original, then a decent gap, then Peter Jackson's Kong, followed real close by Skull Island, and then maybe a bit more of a drop off, and then I would say...
Let's not include King Kong vs. Godzilla and Godzilla vs. Kong right now.
Okay. I would probably say for me, because I'm in love with these type of movies. I'd probably then say Escapes, then the 76 Kong, then Son of Kong, and then King Kong Lives. Yeah, personally speaking, but it is what it is, I guess. But how many of these films did you watch for the first time with this retrospective?
Most of them. I'd never seen King Kong Escapes. I'd never seen the 76 Kong. I'd never seen King Kong Lives, and I never will watch that again.
Yeah.
I'd never seen all of Peter Jackson's Kong. I'd seen bits and pieces.
Yeah.
And that's so 4 out of 7.
Yeah. Well, in terms of the other two, so let's compare the big three, as I like to call them. Which one has been the least painful for you as a whole?
As a whole, this one is the shortest, so I would probably say this one. No, I think...
The average quality of movies.
I think the average quality of movies, probably still this one.
Yeah, I mean, obviously,
I think when you take into account just that first movie alone, I would probably say, in my opinion, you're gonna hate me. I think the original King Kong is a better movie than the 1954 Godzilla.
You know what? I'm actually not going to disagree with you. If someone
now, granted, this is the outsider's opinion here.
Yeah.
Even though I've watched way too many monster movies at this point
yeah.
for the normal individual, I do think that you can consider them both masterpieces.
Yeah.
Especially of the genre and the and their respective franchises. I think the original King Kong is a better movie than 1954 Godzilla. I think the themes that are presented in the 1954 Godzilla are much better and done in a fantastic way with that movie, and how Godzilla is presented as like an allegory for the atomic bomb.
Yeah.
But King Kong as a whole is just a more entertaining movie to me.
Yeah, I mean, I will actually say this. Again, this is coming from the die-hard Godzilla fan. I'll watch a Godzilla movie over a Kong movie any day. But if someone were to put a gun to my head and say, you need not your top five favorite, but the top 5 best monster movies ever made, I think I would just edge out the 33 Kong for number 1, and then I would put the 54 Godzilla at number 2.
With some of the low points that the Godzilla franchise hits, I don't think even King Kong Lives. Did I give King Kong Lives an F?
No, you didn't.
No. I gave some Godzilla films some Fs.
You gave a couple of Godzilla movies Fs, yeah.
And I gave, I think, a Gamera film an F.
Yeah, I think you gave at least one Gamera movie an F.
So, I think the most painful for me to sit through was the Gamera movies. Now, granted, some of those latter movies, like once we got to the Heisei trilogy, the Gamera films, and Gamera the Brave, I thought those were all pretty good movies.
Yeah.
Especially the last one, Revenge of Iris, and Gamera the Brave.
Yeah.
But it was probably the most painful for me to sit through, even though it was only like 12 movies.
Yeah. I mean, I'll agree with you. I don't think Kong ever hit like the rock bottom lows as either Godzilla or Gamera, which I mean,
it got really close.
It got
King Kong Lives is pretty much rock bottom.
It was trying to scrape bottom there.
It grabbed the feet a little. No, its feet were scraping rocks.
But I mean, obviously, I'm gonna say Godzilla was the favorite for me, obviously, because I just love Godzilla movies. I could sit down and watch Godzilla movies all day, every day.
I think if I were to exclude King Kong Lives, I would sit down and watch any of these again.
Yeah,
pretty easily.
Yeah. I do think, like, if I'm ranking the franchise,
especially I would especially sit down and watch the first one and Peter Jackson's Kong, and this one for sure again.
Yeah, I do think Kong probably has a better average grade.
Maybe that's because I grew up, it's more an Americanized version of the giant monster genre.
Yeah.
And that's more what, the films I'm accustomed to is more Americanized films comparatively. But I don't know. I think it works a little better to me.
Yeah, I mean...
most of these movies, excluding, I would say, King Kong Escapes, feel like they're aimed more at an adult audience compared to the Godzilla and the Gamera franchises as well.
Yeah, I mean, there are Godzilla films and Gamera films
that are definitely aimed at an older or adult audience.
I think King Kong,
but like a lot of those Showa era movies are definitely aimed at children, and especially after like the first Gamera movie.
Yeah,
those are children's movies.
I would say starting with the third Gamera movie all the way through the final Showa era movie, aimed at very young kids. Those are children's movies. Once you kind of really got into the Showa era. Once you really kind of got past Mothra versus Godzilla,
they start becoming more
very, very child-friendly movies. Although, I mean, they do get violent at times, and there are boobies in a couple of them, I think.
Just a couple.
But yeah, I agree with you. They really... Now, I love them. I love the just those...
Oh, there were definitely movies in the Godzilla franchise that I would be willing to sit through again, even though I've seen some of them twice.
Yeah. You've seen all the Showa era ones twice, I think.
Or most of them.
Most of them, yeah.
No, I have seen all the Showa era movies twice because we watched all the way through the Showa era. And then we got to Godzilla 1984, I think, right?
Yeah.
And then I stopped.
Yeah.
We started watching that one. I think I
got
distracted and we didn't go back.
I was like, well, now we're gonna do a podcast. We'll just wait and do it then. But no, yeah, I don't know. Would
I sit through all the Gamera movies again?
No,
probably not.
I couldn't pay you to do it.
If you were paying me, if money's involved, I would sit through the Heisei trilogy and Gamera the Brave again.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I mean, like I said, this is a big day for the podcast. This is kind of what I think of as the big three of the monster
movie milestone here
franchises. Yeah. Now we're We are going to
We're going to venture into some territory.
More kind of creature feature. I try to keep them more giant creatures, but yeah, more kind of creature feature territory.
Now, that's not to say some of the movies in between our franchise films aren't going to still be true giant monster movies.
Yeah, but I think Tremors is probably a bit more creature feature. I mean, the Tremors are big, some of them at least, the worms, but we're going to do Tremors next. We're also going to be doing Starship Troopers.
Yeah.
And then I don't think we have a true franchise picked out after that, do we? Or no.
Anaconda.
We have Anaconda and Black Placid mixed in there.
Yeah.
That's stretching. That's going to be where we're really going to start stretching, I think.
There's big anacondas.
Yeah.
Big alligators.
Yeah. After that, I don't know. What other franchise? I mean, I guess we could always go with Jaws. It's a big shark.
That's really stretching.
That's going to stretch the giant monster a little bit.
Jurassic Park.
There's always Jurassic Park. There are dinosaurs.
Man, we get into the dinosaur train. We're going to be here to the end of time.
The end of time.
We
have to go all the way back to the 30s.
Yeah, for sure. 20s.
20s.
I think
We
1925.
could do Velocipastor.
Velocipastor.
Did you say no?
Velocipastor.
No.
I couldn't say that again.
Again?
Sorry. Yeah, we watched
We did watch that.
Oh, God.
It was the guy in a rubber dinosaur suit.
Oh, it was incredible. And wow. Anyway. There's literally a scene in Velocipastor where, I mean, because it's obviously making fun of itself, but like there's supposed to be a car explosion, so they cut to the guy and the car explodes, and then they cut back to where the car was, and it just says visual effects shot enter here or something.
We've gotten so far off topic.
Yeah. Anyway,
the news.
The news. Okay, so just real quick. So, Mill Creek's next releases, we just got the Ultraman Zero Collection and the Mega Monster Ultra Galaxy whatever.
Ultra Galaxy Mega Monster Battle.
Yeah, that.
I think you just made up a bunch of words and put them together.
The next ones will be coming out in September, only on DVD, according to Mill Creek, because of the way that they were preserved, that they couldn't be upscaled, I guess, or something. But on DVD, they're going to be releasing Ultraman 80 and The Ultraman, which is an animated series from the 70s, I believe. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And they'll be being released on DVD in September. We've already watched both of those through other means, and they were interesting. I really like Ultraman 80. The Ultraman,
it was alright.
It's alright. Speaking of Ultraman, July 10th will be the 55th anniversary of Ultraman.
As we're sitting here, it's Friday, July 2nd, so 8
That's
days.
right. And on July 10th, of course, in commemoration, they are premiering Ultraman Trigger, New Generation Tiga. So, yay. Check out that. I'm sure it'll be fun. We'll be checking it out for sure. And there's a teaser for a new Japanese film that was released. I think it's going to be a comedy. It's called Daikaiju no Ato Shimatsu or something like that. And it's basically about what they do with monster corpses after the monsters are killed or die. And the poster is like a dead like two people in the foreground looking up at a dead monster body, and like in the crotch region, like Tokyo Tower stretching straight up. You get it?
Oh no!
Oh boy!
So I'm interested to see more on that one.
That to look forward to.
I think it's coming out sometime in 2022. But anyway, other than that, Dylan, why don't you tell them about what's going on our other podcasts?
Yeah, if you want to check out our other podcasts, if you just can't wait till next week to hear us talk about whatever giant monster movie we're going to be talking about, or you want to hear us talk about something other than giant monster movies, you can listen to us talk about horror movies, where we are currently deep diving into the Halloween franchise. The podcast is called Movies Don't Create Psychos. Should be available on most major podcatching services, so check it out.
That's right, but as far as this podcast goes, you can contact us at stompthisway1954@gmail.com.
This is true. If you want to follow us on our social medias, we're up on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Stomp This Way, so make sure you give us a like or a follow. Be sure to tell your friends about us.
That's right, Andrew. Where can they find our website?
Well, they can find that website at www.stompthisway.podbean.com.
This is a true statement.
That's right. What do we have over there?
We got our full schedule of events. You can see grades for previous films listed on their schedule. You can see all the beautiful movies we have coming up, including that Tremors franchise.
Oh, yeah.
More too, yeah.
Oh, God. You can also see backlogged episodes and whatever news Aaron wants to keep us updated with, as well as soon to be Aaron's full rankings of both, or all of the Godzilla, Gamera, and Kong films, and possibly one day a supercut list.
One day.
One day.
But aside from that, I think that's all we have for you this week. Next week is Wrath of the Titans.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I believe we're starting Tremors. So
Yeah.
look forward to that. But
Reba
McEntire and Kevin Bacon. But other than that, as always, thank you for listening. I'm Aaron.
I'm Andrew.
And I'm Dylan, and we'll catch you in the next one.